the purpose behind this kind of event is to kind of help people come up with kind of ways to kind of validate and kind of how to validate their ideas. The purpose of the event is not for me to kind of tell people whether I think their ideas are kind of good or bad. I think sometimes that can be kind of like counterproductive and maybe make people a bit more shy on whether to kind of like talk about it or not. So I will refrain from kind of like making any kind of like comments whether the idea is good. Just try to help, basically.
Andre, go ahead.
All right, cool. So to put it short, the problem here is that most AI generated outputs are basically crap. And the main reason for that is because people are not giving it the right context. And giving the right context to an AI can sometimes be very time and effort consuming.
Yeah.
So the solution here is to develop a solution that enables people to basically generate context for their AI content in just a click. So in other words, you just put in your website and automatically generates a whole detailed context window for you to use so your prompts become more relevant and accurate.
Got it. And then how does that, sorry, I always kind of ask questions because if I don't understand it, I can't help as much. When you say kind of, let's just take an example. So for example, I've been using a ChatGPT to do copy editing for me quite a lot, right? And so I like went through Reddit and found this giant kind of like prompts that people are using that it like turns ChatGPT in a good copy editor. And then I've just been using that. For what you think of as the solution, is it kind of pre-built kind of like prompts that are already existing and then it's like a list and you're just looking for them, or like where do the prompts come from? Are they generated actually algorithmically?
Right. So basically for different organizations, for different business, each business, they would have a different context altogether.
Yep.
Right. So if you were to use a generic prompt, the output that would come up would basically be based on that generic prompt itself. So my solution here is for each individual, even each organization, they're able to generate their own organizational specific prompt that would give them that will give them a full context.
Oh, I see. This is a B2B thing.
Use the plugin. It's yeah, it could be a B2B thing. It could also be a B2C thing, but I would say more to B2B.
Okay, B2C. So for everybody here, B2B and B2C validation tends to be quite different. And so let's just kind of assume the kind of B2B angle here, right? So the couple of things that I would want to, okay, and you guys are going to see a lot of themes across the board here. And so as you kind of see this, you kind of see how this works. So for B2B stuff, the thing that you're going to want to kind of understand is what types of companies are going to want a product like this, right? And so, yeah, it's too hard to be like, oh, all companies are going to need this. So it's like, okay, well, maybe, but which companies like specifically really, really need this kind of now? Because if you're going to start a company, you got to start with some niche and then kind of like build out from there. So the game you're trying to play is, can I identify a niche such that they are going to kind of like want this and try to understand why they want it, what is the value proposition, and kind of like do this. Then the flip side of this is, can you do this spending the minimum amount of money and time to kind of figure this out, right? And so one hand, what is the niche? Who are these people? Why do they want something like this? Understand everything about those customers. On the other hand, how can I do this kind of quickly and without kind of spending a bunch of money? Obviously, you can just build the damn thing and then kind of like pray for the best, right? I try to be a little bit better than that. And so, okay, so how do you kind of do that? The typical move here is you can do, if you're selling to B2B, you're going to need to do sales, right? And I think the most common ways I've seen kind of like startups doing kind of sales, at least in the early days now, is a lot of if it is more kind of like people who are going to be on LinkedIn, they just do a lot of LinkedIn kind of like outbound like messaging and stuff, right? And basically, by the way, don't build anything, just like make a landing page, maybe kind of like a one page or something, and then try to start selling the product to people on LinkedIn. There's a lot of tools that you can use to kind of automate this now. And so you basically just kind of go around and try to find a list, try to find people you think are interested. I wouldn't choose the people randomly. I would try to come up with what are my 3 most likely kind of initial kind of target customers, find the LinkedIn profiles for, make a list of kind of LinkedIn profiles for each of those groups, and then reach out to each of those groups with kind of like different messages. And you can use that information kind of across. So does one of the groups perform better than the other group? I don't know, if you get 10% conversion in one group and all the other groups are 1%, okay, that group sounds kind of like a bit more interesting. And so you can start kind of just like seeing who responds to you and that kind of stuff. The goal that you should also be doing is obviously you should be trying to get somebody to pay if you can, even before you kind of build the product. But at the very least, will they get on a call with you? Will they talk to you and that kind of stuff? So you're looking for degrees of kind of investment. So if somebody responds to you on LinkedIn, that's better than somebody who doesn't respond to you. Somebody who is willing to get on a call with you is better than somebody who is only going to respond to you. And obviously, if somebody's going to willing to pay for this, then that's better than kind of all of the above, right? And so you're trying to see how many people kind of up and down the stack that you can do. But does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. In fact, in terms of the target niche, um, we're basically looking into content marketing agencies. So the reason
Yep.
for that is because they already do a lot of content
Yep.
for their clients, right? And they work with many different businesses altogether. Every time they want to put generate new content, they
Yep.
have to sort of put in different contexts, even stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, and June, I know we should kind of move on here. Maybe let me kind of go one low step deeper. So good thesis on content agencies makes sense to me, right? I mean, I don't know, but like makes sense to me. The next level that you want to figure out there is who at the content agency needs this, right? So should you target the CEO? Do you target copywriters? Like who do you kind of target here? Um, and I think what's interesting is as you're targeting different people in the organization, they're going to care about different things. Like if you're pitching the CEO on your product, he's going to care about very different things than people who are going to actually interact with it on a regular basis. And so you'll start kind of you want to start uncovering who to target and all of this kind of stuff. And maybe to kind of wrap this question up. What you're trying to do with validation is, can you gather enough evidence such that you, and I don't, maybe you've already quit your job and all that, but typically you want to kind of gather as much evidence as possible so that you can make more of an investment in this kind of company and product. So that could be quitting your job, that could be spending some money to kind of like build some of it and all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to I try to gather as much evidence as I possibly can with kind of the resources that I have at hand. And then as I get more evidence that this is likely a good idea, then I'm going to invest a little bit more. Okay, gather more evidence. Okay, invest more, gather more evidence. And then at some point, you're like, cool, I'm going to quit my job, try to hire people, I don't know, raise money, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But I don't personally want to do that unless I get some level of kind of validation. So, all right, June, hopefully that was helpful.
We're going to move on to Bhavya.
Hey, yes.
Okay.
Steven's gonna pitch my co-founder.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, guys. So yeah, our idea is also in the B2B space. So we see that brands, they struggle to nurture, maintain online communities, and especially for tech startups that rely on communities for customer support, to get product feedback, and also grow for the brand advocates. And they basically have limited tools and features right now to nurture those communities. So our solution is a no-code white label community platform builder for brands, which can be embedded on their websites or app and have the features to better connect and engage with their communities. So leading to retention and more customer acquisition.
Got it. And I think you're targeting more online communities, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. In-app communities, empower businesses to establish and grow and monetize in-app communities. Can you guys give me an example of kind of like, I don't know, not somebody that's necessarily kind of like using it or anything, but just like a community that you would like to work with?
Sure. I guess Revolut has a very good one where, as a customer, you can just go to their community, ask questions about the product.
Oh, I see. It's like kind of it's like you can kind of get answers. There's like if you have questions about the service and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But it's also a space where people can talk with each other. So there's this feature of forum where people can basically ask questions to each other and build credibility for the brand, because it's basically other customers replying.
Okay, so a couple of things, and for everybody, whenever I try to think about validation, I try to think about validation is an exercise in trying to like gather evidence and kind of learn stuff before you kind of invest more. I'm going to just say this over and over and over because I think it's really important. In these guys' case, the questions that I would ask myself is, what companies at a high level, just to kind of start, what companies care about this? Not all companies are going to care, right? And so some companies are going to care, some companies are not going to care. So that's kind of the top level question. Okay, which of these companies kind of care? Then the other thing I would think about is, what do they care about? So do they care about, like, I don't know, they just want like a page that they have frequently asked questions and that's it? Like, that's the main thing they care about. Do they care about the people being able to talk to each other? Do they not want people to be able to talk to each other? Like, and this is kind of like getting at kind of like your feature list, right? So there's a lot of, I mean, you guys know this, you guys have tons of stuff you can build, right? And as you guys are working on it, the thing is you need to kind of find out which thing really resonates with people and then kind of focus on kind of building that. I find oftentimes companies will try to build like 5 different features and then throw them at their customers and being like, which one do you want? And it's a bad, typically kind of a bad thing to do, because then you've spent the work and built all 5, right? Also, your product is more complicated, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. For early stage companies, in my experience, customers, at least in the very early stage in that initial set, they care a lot about one of them, like disproportionately, right? If you hear customers tell you, oh, I kind of like all of them, they don't care about any of them, is what it says. It's like they're just trying to be nice. Okay, so the 2 things I want to understand, if I'm you, you guys 2 co-founders, let's say I'm your 3rd co-founder, if you guys will have me, I'm basically like, okay, what are the companies that we're looking at, and what are the features that they kind of care about, and that kind of stuff. And I always think about these in pairs. So some companies that might be interested in your product may care about customers talking to each other. Other companies might care about some other piece, right? So you don't want to like, oh, people care about this feature. It's like, well, not this group of people, right? And so you always want to think about it in kind of like customers and then kind of like what they care about. Okay, same thing here is, I mean, you can do the normal kind of stuff, and this is very like Silicon Valley kind of fake it till you make it stuff. But basically, the way that I would do it is I would make a web page that, you could even have, in the past, I've just made designs and screenshots of kind of what it is. And I had the whole feature set and all of that kind of stuff. And then I think in this case, you can also do the LinkedIn outreach stuff too. It's like, okay, make a list of the 3 types of companies you think would want to use this. Go populate those lists with people at those companies. Go message them and kind of being like, hey, I'm a founder of this company. I noticed that, you guys don't have something like this, or maybe you do. I think we can do a better, I don't know, whatever. You write some message, whatever. And what you're really A/B testing is basically just your message, and then the website is basically kind of like supporting material, right? But can you get people to respond to you? Can you get people to get on calls with you and all that stuff? For other people on the call, I think this is surprising. A lot of companies have gotten people to pay them before they've actually built a product. I know it sounds weird. It sounds weird for 2 reasons. One is that I can't believe people will kind of do that. And 2, it's like, is it like ethical to get people to kind of pay for stuff that you haven't kind of built here? Not here to give moral kind of like advice to anybody, but it's never been a problem for me. And I think in part because I intend to kind of build that thing. And at any moment I'm not going to build that thing, I give them their money back. Like, absolutely no questions. I would never take somebody's money and not deliver on the thing that I'm kind of trying to do. And so, but people being able to kind of pay me gives me kind of like a good signal that they're like kind of like interested and willing to kind of like do this. So I think in a similar kind of case here, guys, is I would just start putting together those lists, and then you can start running loops, and they're just basically experimental trials where you're like, okay, cool. These 3 sets. Did anybody respond? Nobody responded. Great. Let's try a variation of the value proposition that we're selling to each of them. Did anybody respond? Nope. Okay, maybe we'll try another one. Did anybody respond? Nobody. Okay, I'm going after another group of people now, right? And you're basically just methodically kind of like testing this out. And you almost are kind of working through the permutations of like customers and kind of features, and you're trying to kind of go through this, right? So I think try to get this information before you kind of like build out, but it's kind of similar.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, we're gonna move on to Anchi.
Hi. Yeah, so our problem is this area that we realize is kind of hard, so mental health. So the issue, as you can see from the stats, is that a lot of people are at risk of mental health, and plus now it's becoming like an increasingly people are more aware of it, and like and of going for treatment as well. However, in Southeast Asia, at least, there's still a fair there's a very large treatment gap of up to like 90% of people, and that's like potentially like hundreds of millions of people. Because according to the World Health Organization, there's 260 million people with mental health issues in Southeast Asia. So basically, we want to be the platform where so our solution is basically group therapy, which has been research has shown is as effective as individual therapy. So, but however, individual therapists, it's very hard to get them to form the groups because they don't normally they don't have enough pool to form groups based on demographics or like issues they're facing and like time slots as well. Individual therapists, they're also very expensive, which is one reason why most people don't want to go. And for some, especially like private practitioners, sourcing clients is quite challenging. So, but and Reddit has shown, Reddit Singapore at least, has shown that people do want support groups. They look for people with like IBS, for child-free couples, no contact support group, ADHD, so on and so forth. So there is this demand. So we want to basically redo the math. So instead of spending, let's say 300 per session, you can spend like maybe like 50 per session, 30 per session.
Yep.
To share with more people.
Got it. Okay. And I always kind of say this when mental health stuff comes out because it's my small way to kind of help thing. I've seen a therapist every other week for the past 5 years, and I'm going to continue for the rest of my life. And so mental health is kind of a thing that kind of like matters to me and kind of that kind of stuff. But I always kind of like share that fact because I don't know, I feel like there's a stigma around it. And I think it's stupid. One of the best things I do on a regular basis. Okay, so this is kind of a fun one because you can basically run this platform without writing any software. So the previous one was like, okay, it has to be in-app and people have to post. And it's like, okay, well, you can't actually kind of do that one without kind of writing any kind of like software. This one you kind of can, right? Okay, so here's what I would do here. You can form the groups manually, right? And so you can do all the organizing and all that kind of stuff. That's just a spreadsheet, right? So, and by the way, yeah, you can eventually make it into a platform. And the thing I always say to people is software is for scale. If you need to put together kind of like hundreds or thousands of groups, yeah, you probably need some software, right? But if you're only trying to put together a couple of groups to see if this works, you just do this out of a spreadsheet, right? Okay, so then the game is you can put groups together. So then the game is, can you get therapists to facilitate the groups? And then can you get people who want to be in the groups, right? So if you get people who want to be in the groups, you get the therapist, you create the groups, that's a product, right? And maybe the other thing I'll kind of share is oftentimes people think of products as the app or the software that you write. That is not the product. Your product is, I come to this platform, I talk to a therapist in kind of a group setting. That's it. However you deliver that, that's the product, right? It's not kind of like software. Okay. So on the therapist side, I think you can kind of just brute force get therapists. And what I mean by that is you probably know some, you can contact some, you can find some people who are interested in this. And sorry, how big are the groups? So how many therapists for each group?
Recommended 6 to 12.
Okay, got it. So the game that I would play is your job is you need to kind of find that group of people. I think you can reasonably get therapists. And so I'm like not that worried about that side as much. I'm like trying to get the other side, right? So the game that you need to be able to okay, long term, you want to be able to validate both sides of this. So you want to validate that there's a lot of therapists who are willing to do this, and then you want to also validate that there's a lot of people who want mental health in this, like help in this way. I would tackle one of the sides first, and that side is people that want this help. The therapist side, I'm willing to kind of believe in just for now. So then the question is like, how do you get a bunch of people to kind of like sign up for this, right? So, okay, great. Pilot with one group. Okay, can you get a second group? Okay, can you get a third group? Like, can you get that going? Similar kind of thing here. And this is like all validation. What types of people typically want help in this way? And which ones are going to be open to doing it in a group? Right. So to me, it's like you could want help in this way, but you may be not comfortable in a group and all this kind of stuff. And then so you need people kind of in both. My hunch is that there's probably you would then want to kind of build kind of distribution strategies to kind of get those people. So let's say one of those people was you think young people, and I'm going to use that in broad strokes, but you think young people are less stigmatized to kind of like seeing therapists, and they're more open to sharing in groups. I have no idea, but let's just say that's the case, right? Okay, then what you could do is then you need to kind of figure out, okay, is it young people of a certain, is it like some demographic? Is it kind of like, okay, college educated, not college educated, okay, rich, poor, like kind of where is it? And I would actually run if you found out that it was like people who just got out of college, like Singapore, just got out of college, universities, Singapore, they went to like NUS or something like that. You mean you could run Instagram ads against people who are of a certain age group that ran to NUS and that kind of stuff. And then you could look at what your basically cost per acquisition, what your conversion was for that. Compare that to people maybe they're like 65 and above and they live in like heartlands, and you compare the conversion and CAC to that, right? And you're basically playing the same game as these other guys where they're trying to figure out which company, what value proposition increases their conversions, kind of like, and you're playing the same game, but for which people are wanting to kind of sign up for this. So if you found out that like, oh man, I totally thought it was going to be young people in Singapore, but it turns out like over 65 live in HDBs are like huge demand for this, then I would start kind of trying to build out from there, right? And the thing that you're just trying to build is how many of these groups can you put together? How many groups, how many active groups can you facilitate on a weekly basis? And can you make that number go up consistently? Right. And if you can kind of do that consistently, then I think you're likely probably kind of like onto something, at least at kind of this initial level. And if you really can't get that to kind of work, then you're like, okay, I've got to figure something else or something is wrong. But I mean, this is kind of one of these fun cases where it's like you don't actually need to write software until kind of like much later, right? So you can just start running it and see how people do. Do people drop out of the program? So maybe the last thing here is focus on growing the number of groups, but also the retention of people in the groups. If you grew the groups really quickly, but everybody tried it once and never came back, that's kind of a bad sign, right? And so you kind of want to that's why you want to grow the active number every week, because then you have churn and then kind of growth. And if you can retain and you can grow quickly, you're like in good shape, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
The next person is Chris.
Hey, hi, Sukan.
Hey.
Hey, hello. Yeah, nice meeting you. Okay, so we are trying to build a toy platform, a toy rental platform, because the problem which we are seeing now is that so for the toddlers who are aged between 0 to 3, first thing is that the toys actually change after a few months. Second is that getting the toys is rather expensive. So I think as a parent ourselves, we pay average $50 to $100 for toys. And third is that people actually don't use, I mean, toys are actually not being used or very much underutilized after a certain period of time.
Yep.
So we actually wanted to develop this toy platform catering for this age group.
Got it. This is another one where you can do this without actually writing any software, right? Your house might be a bit messy, but basically, I mean, I've had friends who run similar business to this, and they basically just, I mean, the low-fi version of this is like you could almost kind of like, that's kind of interesting. You could actually probably make a Shopify site with the toys on there that are at your house, and you just make the cost like 0 and just put the inventory as kind of 1, and then just have people kind of like check out and kind of like rent it and put orders in and all of that kind of stuff. Because all you really want to be able to kind of like, what you want to be able to understand is what types of parents what parents should you target? Like, and maybe it's kind of like socioeconomic, but it also is what ages their children at. I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but like I could imagine where some people who are parents of very young children may have different kind of like feelings about kind of like renting toys compared to kind of children kind of older. And so you want to understand, okay, what about the parents? Okay, what age group should you kind of like go for here? I know you have kind of like toddlers here, but like, look, maybe it's 3 to 4 year olds. I don't know, right? So you want to kind of understand that. The other thing you also need to understand is what toys are they kind of interested in? Like maybe it's like only education toys. Like people only want to rent education toys and they don't want to rent like anything else, right? And you're like, okay, that's a good thing to know. And so you want to kind of understand these pieces. And again, I think it's like you don't need tech to kind of like do this. You just need to be able to display the toys that you have, and you need people to be able to kind of like rent them, right? Is functionally kind of like how it works. And so I got to imagine that you can do that with kind of like no code, but you could honestly do it with an Airtable gallery. Just put just take a picture of all the toys and put them in like a gallery and then send it to people who are kind of interested in this. The way that I would probably set this up is I would make a reasonably nice landing page to make it seem like it's a thing, get people to sign up for it. And then when people sign up, I would send them an automated email that is like, hey, thanks for signing up. Here's my list. If you want to see the list of toys that are kind of available to rent, click this link. And the link goes to an Airtable gallery. And the instructions are, if you would like one of these toys, WhatsApp me. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Right. But like, tell me what you want. And then I can kind of like, we'll send it over to you. We'll kind of deliver it and all of this kind of stuff. And I mean, that's basically, it's not fancy, but that is what your product is supposed to do. I should be able to like look at a set of toys. I should be able to kind of pick one and you should be able to deliver it to me and I can give you money.
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
because we're actually trying to figure out, what toys are actually popular among parents. And so that means, that's probably the
Ooh, you know what's a fun way to test that?
Mhm.
You could run marketing campaigns. And by the way, for people, when I'm saying you can run Facebook campaigns, you can run Facebook campaigns for relatively cheap in Southeast Asia. One of the things that was like a big surprise to me is running ad spend is way more costly in the United States than it is in Southeast Asia. But I've been able to get like 1,000 signups with kind of like, I don't know, probably like not very much like money, right? Probably like a couple hundred or something like that. So it's possible. And so when I'm saying, hey, you can kind of do this. Sorry, the thing that I was going to suggest to you, if you want to understand what the toys are, I would make several versions of the same homepage. And it's the same homepage, but I would swap out what products, what toys I show on the homepage. And then I would drive traffic to each of the 5 homepages evenly. And then I would see which of the homepages converts better. Because conceivably it's the same, and if they're all seeing the same stuff, then the toys on the page are kind of making the difference. I used to do this when I graduated from school. I did this for Nike actually, and we literally ran a test where we were like, do people buy more shoes if they see Tiger Woods on the homepage or Michael Jordan? Right?
Okay.
It was Michael Jordan all day, but that's kind of what we found out, right? But you could actually do that. You could test that out. So if you wanted to just see what improved your conversion, that's a fun thing to do.
Okay. So actually say do 5 different landing pages, but with each landing page of different toys as the main one. And then we can see which actually get the most
Yeah,
traffic.
I mean, or you could do a couple of pages and then maybe you just show 9 toys in a grid on the homepage, but they're different 9 toys, right? And by the way, I wouldn't pick the toys randomly. I mean, I would be clever about what you choose, right? So I would do one page that is like, okay, I'm going to pick educational toys. Okay, here are like 9 educational toys. Put that on it. Okay, next one. These are physical fitness focused toys. Okay, put that one here. Okay, this one is a mix of education, and basically then you can kind of get a better understanding. Make sense?
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Chris, also check out the chat because there are a few reactions from the audience. So
Oh, this is awesome.
Okay.
I feel like audience
Lovely
kind
to
of
see that.
reactions and suggestions are the best. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, let's move on to Roland.
Okay, so last year, June 2023, we talked to 50 teachers and we found out that the problem is that they have trouble preparing lesson plans and they invested around 3 to 5 hours a week for lesson plans. So the solution, we built an AI startup that prepares lesson plans for teachers for less than 2 minutes, and we're able to get 300,000 teachers using it in the platform for 11 months. And our challenge is we want to scale this and we want to look for validation outside of the Philippines, since the Philippines only has 1.4 million teachers and we want to empower 20 million teachers in Asia. So we're going to start with Thailand. So that's our challenge.
Okay. Sorry, but so you already have a product though and all that kind of stuff. So it's not really kind of valid. You're kind of past the validation stage, right? Because you already have a product, people are already using it and stuff, right?
Correct. It's now validating other markets, other countries.
Okay. This is a slightly kind of different kind of like thing. I'm just calling, I'll try to help you, but I'm going to call this out for other people. It's a slightly different thing because I think most validation that we've been talking about is kind of like, hey, how do I know if this is an idea that I should be pursuing or not? And you're kind of already pursuing this one. So this is kind of like, the question is more of kind of like, which country should I kind of be opening with? So I'll try to be kind of helpful here, but it's different, guys. For everybody else kind of watching, this is a different kind of thing. How do you normally sell it to teachers now? Like, what is the main way to sell into them?
Right now it's B2C. So teachers would have to go to the platform,
Okay.
sign up, and then do top
How do you
up.
drive them to your platform?
Right now it's because of teachers network. So we just talk to them, what's their biggest challenges, and then what happened is that because of the product, teachers would have to share it to their co-teachers and use it. So within
Wait. Sorry. You told me
Yeah.
before that you get people go to a website. They like go to a website and then they kind of like sign up for this thing. How do they find out about the website?
TikTok. Teachers create their own content.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way that I would test this then is do TikTok in local languages, right? So what you said Thailand. What are the other I don't know, just pick 2 other countries you're interested in.
TikTok, no, Thailand and Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's just throw Malaysia in there because that's where June and I are from for just good measure, right? I would just start doing the TikTok content. So you have TikTok content right now in the Philippines, and it probably works reasonably kind of well. I would take that content and I would do it in local language of those 3 countries, and then I would drive them. I would make a version of your guys' homepage that is also in kind of the local language, and then I would make these TikTok videos, push them into those countries, drive them into the local language homepage, and see which ones kind of resonate the most. Again, I got to imagine that like one of these countries probably performs better than other ones, and then you want to compare it to kind of your Philippines numbers, right? And so, I mean, if you found that the Vietnam TikTok and kind of landing page converted kind of like it got twice as much traffic and the conversion was twice as high as your Philippine business, I would like run, not walk to Vietnam, right? If it was like 10% of the traffic, 10% of the conversion, I'd be like, ooh, that doesn't look as promising. I wouldn't give up on it. I mean, you run iterations of the ads and you try to kind of find out like, okay, maybe there's something unique about Vietnam and like reaching teachers. We can't use the same playbook and all of that kind of stuff. But typically when I think about expanding into other countries, what I'm looking for is how easy is it to translate what I currently do into that new country? And if that's easy, then more likely that I'm going to focus on that country. If I have to completely change my product, completely figure out what my growth distribution platform is, my distribution channel is, all of that kind of stuff, it might be worth it to kind of go into a country, but like takes a lot of work, man, right? It's like maybe TikTok doesn't work in Vietnam at all, and your entire company is built around being able to grow through TikTok, and now it doesn't work. You're like, shit, right? So I think you would kind of like, can you do what you're currently doing in another country, and does it work well? Is the first validation I would kind of figure out. If one of those does work well, then maybe you can kind of think more about that country. If none of them work well, then you have to kind of figure out, you're like, hey, why does none of this kind of work well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of people want to talk to you, by the way, in the chat.
Yes. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Roland. All right, moving on to Daryl.
Cool. So yeah, basically travel's back. We all know that. Gen Z millennial travels they would travel more than ever, basically. But current methods, right? They go through a whole bunch of recommendations online, TikTok, Instagram, all over the place. They then compile their wish list in Google Maps list or iPhone Notes, wherever the hell it is. And then they don't really know how to, then they go to, say, Bangkok for 3 days and they're like, okay, I have 30 places to go. I want to go. How do I best make time out of this? Sort of like easily allow them to discover, organize, and then plan out an itinerary based on their scheduling needs, all in one place with the solution that we have. So almost think of it like Pinterest, from like a Pinterest style visual discovery, like aggregated content from TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot. Put it together in like a Google Maps style kind of like listing, or like a pin board, whatever you want to call it. And then AI like to basically help them auto-generate like an itinerary based on the scheduling needs. So that's the problem solution there that we're looking at.
Okay. I was trying to kind of think if there's a way to kind of like do this without kind of writing any software, and I'm not sure that there is, to kind of like actually kind of like deliver on the product,
okay.
right? I wish there was.
That's okay. I got a tech guy in the call. So yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, even then though, it's like actually, this is a good point for kind of everybody. The purpose of validating without kind of writing any code is writing code just takes a lot of time, and you're preparing for scale that you don't necessarily kind of like have, right? Like for example, it's like I'm an engineer. I don't ever write code until like I get like a lot of people to use my thing first anymore, right? Because it's like, again, it's like if you actually
Right.
build the app and then kind of like have people use it and you get it wrong, then it's actually you're less nimble after you build the app, right? Because you gotta like change how the app works and all this kind of stuff. Okay, the generic answer here is you can obviously make a landing page that talks about everything that you do and why it's better and all of that kind of stuff. And then since you have a very strong kind of lean on the specific type of traveler you have, you can run Instagram ads for this product with kind of different value propositions. I'd run a couple of different campaigns targeted at a couple different like travel groups and different kind of like demographics and with different kind of value propositions. And basically I'm trying to hone in on which one kind of pops the most, right? So is it like millennial travelers trying to go like, and millennial travelers and what they care about is optimizing their travel wish list, not organizing. And the Japan, the image of traveling to Japan, I'm going to Japan tonight. The image of traveling to Japan crushes like
cool.
Europe or whatever, right? And so then you start getting some kind of like direction on kind of like who these people are kind of like are and what they need to help with. Because, you know, I could imagine a product that is very, if it's struggling to organize, that's a very kind of workflow-y product, right? If it is discovery focused, where it's like, show me beautiful images of places that I can go, like Pinterest is, that's a very different product, right? If it's optimize my schedule, again, that also looks like a different thing. And so, and look, you're never going to know for sure, but can you get some information on like, should it be more organized and optimized? Should it be more aspirational? Like, yo, I'm going to Japan. What are like awesome stuff I can kind of see? Like, which of these kind of like work more, right? Okay, that's the generic answer. I was trying to, I don't know if this is a good idea, but maybe I'll suggest it. And, you know, your job as a founder is to figure out whether Sukan gives you good advice or not, or whether it's dumb. And if you think it's dumb, don't do it. I was thinking you could make, if you're going to work on the organizing part, I mean, it's not totally delivering on your product, but I've seen people grow quite large lists by building like travel organizer templates and like that kind of stuff, right? And so the thesis there is like, hey, if you can get like 5,000 people to sign up for your travel like organizing spreadsheet template, then I mean that shows that there's people really kind of struggle with this and they kind of want some way to kind of help them with this. You could also make aspirational travel packs for kind of discovery around locations. If you're like, I mean, I don't know where you're based, but Singaporeans, for example, love to go to Japan. I'm not Singaporean, but Singaporeans love to go to Japan. I could imagine you, and like you just pick Tokyo, which lots of people want to go to Tokyo, and you basically make like some list or guide that is like, here's all the awesome stuff in Tokyo, right? And you're like handcrafting it such that it is like a good representation of these places. And again, if you can get a bunch of people to give you an email for that, that's kind of a sign. So I would do this thing, and this is pretty common kind of tactic, but it's like, hey, you want this template? Give like sign up with your email and I'll send you the template. Yeah. Right. Go ahead.
We've done something similar like this previously. We've tested sort of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is that there's still this sort of like one, the discovery part, because otherwise like the template part sort of like exists with Wonderlog already. But Wonderlog, for example, you know, misses that whole discovery sort of like like that first sort of like part of that planning value chain, as you can call it, you know. So maybe it's something we focus more on that side.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I mean that's kind of your thesis on the space, which I think I mean it's fine. I mean, founders should have thesis on the space, but I think your thesis is like, hey, the planning part a bit crowded. I don't know what our competitive. I don't know what new we have to kind of say about that. But the discovery piece, maybe we have kind of more interesting things to kind of say that people kind of like aren't doing here. How do you kind of lean into that, right? And so I would try to kind of figure that out. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thanks for that, man. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you, Daryl. Is Luke here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Luke, go ahead.
Hello. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And I wanted to talk about men's underwear. So I don't know if you have this problem, but men around the world, I think, generally struggle or have struggled with uncomfortable underwear.
Yep.
And, out of the 20, 30 people, guys I've talked to, options are limited. So they either have Uniqlo, which is cheap but not really comfortable, or Lululemon, which is too expensive. And Asian men, I feel like, have slightly different needs as well. In Singapore, there's hotter climates. But just from a bodily shape, like they might have bigger thighs but smaller hip ratios, and it tends to ride up. So great options exist in the US or in Western regions, but
Yeah.
not as much in Asia. So
Yeah.
the solution is more of a online D2C underwear brand
Yeah.
that offers solutions to these problems.
Yep.
And I think in terms of testing, I've bought underwear from the US
Yep.
as prototypes and sent them to customers. So
Yep.
that part I am relatively okay on. But
Yep.
what I'd like to test is the D2C concept
Yep.
of whether people are willing to buy it here.
Start selling them. Make a Shopify site. Start selling it, right? And Tim was here before, and I was like, at what point do I tell the Tim story? I don't know if Tim's still here, but okay, I will tell the Tim story that I tell from everybody. So Tim was one of the first companies we invested in, Iterative, and he was trying to work on he basically started a buy now, pay later company, and he wanted to validate the buy now, pay later kind of model in the Philippines. This was like 5 years ago. Tim, because he's very clever, started a Shopify site, and he sold very like rare sneakers, like kind of off-white Jordans, all this kind of stuff, except for he had none of the shoes. None of the products was selling on his thing, but he made the Shopify site and he sold these shoes. And in the checkout process, he had a link that was like, do you want financing on buying these shoes? And he basically, like, the whole website was kind of like a Trojan horse, so that to see how many people clicked on the form. And if they clicked on the form, they actually had to fill out kind of normal KYC stuff of like, how much money do you make and where do you live and all this kind of stuff. So we would go through the entire process. And so we got data on how many people actually like bought these shoes and wanted kind of financing and who they were and all of that kind of stuff. And then when he got to the final end of the product, he basically just like canceled all the orders. Right. I mean, I think I can't remember if he like built it into Stripe or something like that, but it was like, yeah, auto send an email and being like, hey, sorry, we like ran out of the shoe. You were like too slow or something like that. Right. But he had real world data on who, like, what percentage of people wanted it, who were they, what were their demographics, all that kind of stuff. It kind of dawns on me that you can kind of do like an even simpler version of that, which is just like act like you have the D2C brand already and start selling the underwear. And you can test out what different kind of like messages kind of people care about. Like, do people care about the like chafing part? Does the kind of like Asian men angle kind of play kind of more, or is it just kind of like, I don't know, it's a Singapore brand that matters? I mean, you can kind of just try all this kind of like different things and actually get people to like go through the entire process. Now, don't charge anybody. I mean, just cancel it or whatever. But like, if you came to me, and this is not the only thing that kind of like matters, but if a founder comes to me and they pitch me something like this, and I'm like, how do you know people want this? And they're like, oh, I have 1,000 orders. I was like, oh, I didn't think you have underwear yet. You're like, yeah, I don't. But I know people want it because I've already got 1,000 orders for this thing that I haven't made. All I got to do is make the thing now. And I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty compelling, right? You can do the same thing, right? And then again, you can kind of just play games with kind of like your website and stuff around what are the angles, like I would make up like product models on like, this underwear is really good in like heat. This underwear like doesn't ride up or whatever, right? And being like, okay, which ones do people buy the most, right? Do they want to buy in packs of 3? I don't know. I'm kind of making shit up, but like, you get what I mean, right? It's like, just make the website.
Yep. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Luke. All right, let's move on to Abram. I believe he is here.
Hi, yeah. So the problem is we have marketing managers and small medium entrepreneurs in Indonesia who struggle with creating engaging content creation quickly and consistently, and often consuming significant time and resources. And so our solution is our company trying to leverage AI to transform product URLs from e-commerce sites into high quality videos. And so our platform extracts essential product information and generates videos with customizable features such as templates, resolutions, and formats. And not only this reduces time and effort required for content creation, but this allows to enhance productivity and scalability. Yep.
Okay, automate video creation from product links. Oof. Okay. This one I think kind of falls kind of in the category of like, I guess it's B2B, right? You're selling it to marketing managers?
Yeah. So it's a B2B SaaS. We're targeting marketing managers and small, medium entrepreneurs.
My first reaction is you can run the kind of like typical B2B SaaS kind of validation playbook, which is like make a website and try to kind of like and talk about kind of what the product is, and then just do a bunch of like LinkedIn kind of like outreach to marketing managers to kind of see what that is. And I mean, see whether they care about, do they care about video creation from product links? Do they care about customizable templates and formats? Do they care about reducing time and effort? Like what are the things they kind of care about? And so again, I think similar thing here. What is your 3 to 5 kind of types of companies you want to target? You think it's going to be marketing managers? I don't know. Maybe it's like people who like actually do the kind of like production work for marketing stuff, maybe. And then you're trying to figure out what the different kind of like features they care about, whether it's kind of be like video creation, customizable templates, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's interesting, by the way, the way you wrote this is video creation from product links, offering customizable templates and formats. Those are 2 like features. And then reduce time and effort needed for content production. And then that is kind of like the value proposition. So I'm curious which one it kind of is, but that's what you want to be able to figure out is like, which ones do people care about? You know, video creation from product links is a very different product than maybe not actually customizable templates and formats. But anyway, you're going to want to figure out typical kind of B2B validation stuff here. Yeah, reach out to people, marketing, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, this is different from validating, but I see a lot of people have done this before. They build basically like the content distribution here first, and then they kind of layer the product on top of it. But I think that's like a separate kind of like topic. I would just do the typical playbook here, like put together kind of marketing material, kind of like sales, start reaching out to people, try to get people to kind of use your products, get on phone calls with you, that kind of stuff.
All right. Yep. Thank you so much.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Abram. Okay, again, we have time to do one more.
Yep.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna just jump back because Stephanie from before, she just joined. Stephanie, are you here?
Stephanie's back.
Stephanie's
Hello,
back.
yes. Sorry, I'm just gonna be in the car.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the problem is that I realized that people traveling, they would want to travel somewhere, but it's either they don't have the same interests or they don't have the friends to go with.
Yep.
So the idea is to have this website or an app where you can click on an itinerary that's all done for you, and then you just fly over to the place, and you'll have a host there, and you'll meet people who are like-minded and have a trip that is themed. So let's say it's themed on snowboarding, or maybe it's a food tour, but it's something that's of your interest. I guess it's more of a theme tour.
All right. So this is one of those ones where you can actually kind of like deliver the product without building any software or anything at all. And I think what it is you just start running these, right? So it's basically kind of like a theme tour with a group of people who are strangers, basically. So like-minded strangers. And so like I think you could just pick a theme and a location and all of that you think people would be interested in, and then you basically just sell seats or tickets or whatever to that kind of like travel package or whatever you want to kind of call it, and then you keep trying to do that, right? And so if you can get to a world where you're like, okay, I do one of these a month, and we are selling out of each of the seats, then you're probably in reasonable shape. And then you can just work on kind of scaling it. It's like, okay, can I do once a month? Can I do one every 2 months? Okay, can I do one a week? Can I do one every day? Can I do 5 a day and all that kind of stuff? At some point, you're going to need software to kind of like, so people can see what all of the packages are, and they're going to do all of this kind of stuff. They can book online, they can do all of that. But that's only something that happens when you have some level of kind of like scale where that's necessary, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing it kind of every other week, I mean, you can kind of just manage it kind of like through WhatsApp and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so
Right.
I would probably just start hosting these kind of tours and stuff. And then, you know, if you get to be kind of very big, then you can worry about it as kind of like a tech problem, but right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would
Maybe to
say
kind
it's
of
like a better way to do it just traditionally and just start small and make the trips.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say the thing I kind of said earlier, which is your product is being able to deliver these experiences with people, right? It's not an app. It's not, I don't know, some, you know, doohickey that you click a button and think that's not your product, right? Your product is, I want to kind of go do these things with like-minded people, and I wish there was a way to kind of do that. And if you can deliver that, I don't care if I never use an app in the entire process, right? If I went through the WhatsApp the entire time, perfectly happy, right?
Right.
So I would just do it that way.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty straightforward. Thank you for that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. All right, so Ken, we are done.
All right.
And any parting words before we hop off?
This event, and I think kind of validation is, there's a lot of people who are thinking about starting an idea and maybe thinking about taking the plunge to be a kind of a full-time founder and that kind of stuff. And so to me, validation is, I would hate to see people kind of look, I think the world needs more founders, but I would like more founders that come into it with kind of like, they make sure they're working on the right problem and they're working on a problem that's going to be kind of productive and fruitful. And it can be hard to know whether that's the case until you start working on it. And so I think the whole reason we host events like this is so we can hopefully talk to people about how to do that. And so, you know, people can, when they do decide to kind of take the plunge, they can do it with kind of some level of kind of information and kind of like knowledge that like, hey, what I'm thinking about is kind of like a pretty good idea. And maybe I'll just take Stephanie as kind of an example of this. If she can sell one of these kinds of like travel packages every month, that is more evidence that she's onto something than if she kind of decides to, I don't know if she's quit her job or whatever. I don't know what her situation is, but if she quits her job having never sold one, that's quite risky, right? If she quits her job having that and consistently has sold one every single week and thinks she can make it to every other week, okay, that's a little bit better information. And so I think a lot of this is we want to kind of just be able to talk to people about this and give them ideas on how to kind of validate these things before they kind of take those plunges. I never advise people to start companies having done no validation, and I don't start companies anymore, but if I would never start a company without kind of spending quite a bit of time validating an idea. And so hopefully this helps with people.